Good morning, everybody.
Hey, good morning.
I just realized that I, again, didn't add us to the thing and mute our
The
mics.
sound, the audio.
Yeah,
wasn't
we'll
there?
have to add
We're
that to
figuring that out.
the stuff on this.
They know the
the
song.
syndicated.
They were singing it as we were waiting.
Dun dun
Yeah.
dun. Yeah, we could do it again. I'm not going to do it again. I look forward to the day. Jim and I are pretty much so. It's like
I
it
know what she's
is
gonna
the
say.
two of us flying by the seat of our pants. 98% of the time, probably 100% of the time. And so it's, it's just the two of us do this. And I look forward to the day when I have someone that does the stuff for us.
She does a fantastic job.
I
Well, that
do.
day will come, but in
Yeah.
the meantime, she does a fantastic job.
Yeah.
So we're figuring it out.
Go ahead and say good morning. Let us know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
We've got a really great topic today that we kind of had a conversation before we went live with our guest, and it's like, we probably didn't choose the most engaging topic,
Or
and we're working on that.
The title, you mean?
Our title.
Yeah.
And title to, like, people are going, oh, that's completely something that I want to learn about. But I'll tell you what we're going to be talking about today is relevant to every dealer out there, regardless of where you are in your size and age.
So go grab a car dealer and bring them to the show. So
exactly.
No, there is some good stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
There's a couple of
First announcements.
Yeah. Reminder that we've got our March 30th event coming up. We're starting to get some registrations in on that. We got sponsors in on that.
And we actually we had our, if you're a friend of the Octane Group page, we've already posted one of our marketing pieces, and so that'll be going out. We're going to be sharing it and other things today, and this is really going to be a amazing opportunity. And I was just kind of thinking as we were talking with our guest about, how we're inviting people in for the morning show and choosing topics that kind of, in a way, lead us to what we're doing in March, because there's a lot of really good meat on the bone about what it is what our ultimate goal is with this event in March. And I was kind of thinking as we're going there, it's like, this is the ultimate working on your business instead of in your business event that you could possibly go to. This is about working on your business instead of in your business.
Yeah. It's about creating solution. I think my goal of the event is bring all the smart people that have the answers, because we got a lot of questions to bring to that day. And so today's conversation with Paxton is going to be much along that line. I did want to put in a quick mention to our sponsors who have stepped in already, and you'll see it on our materials. Dealer RE, so those folks that are in reinsurance business all across the country. LHPH Capital, you guys know them from Lease or Pay here from San Diego, and then Butler Sanchez, Hugo and Amanda are sponsoring as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome. And just so you all know, when you see the links go out for the event, that we are doing an early bird special on that. And so just wanted to put a plug out there that it will be early bird, capital E, capital B, morning show, capital M.
We'll put it on the thing next
capital
time.
S. Yeah. And that is going to get you $125 off of your registration for this. So, and that will be ending on March 9th.
Yeah.
So
get in there and get registered.
So it's we just want to get people to get in there. And also, if you do register for that you're going to have access to the recording afterwards at no additional cost. So that will include, that's part of your ticket.
Good morning, Russell Moore. Glad you're here. This is going to be a fun conversation. You're going to enjoy what we have to talk about here.
Should we bring our guest
Let's bring in Paxton Wright.
And Paxton, first thing thank you so much for joining us. And you and Jim must have memoed each other about what you were wearing today.
There you go.
I didn't notice that.
Jim, I got to send you a Primalend shirt.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You've got one of these.
There you go. If we can send you a morning show one or a coffee mug.
There you go.
Coffee.
I've got my plastic cup from a golf course. So
outstanding.
Very good.
George
Very good.
Batt,
Good morning,
Karen
George.
Barnett. Glad to have you guys here. So so I kind of give a little background. So Paxton, on the morning show, I kind of like to think of our morning show conversations as a little like if we met for coffee at a conference, we're just chatting over a cup of coffee at a conference is kind of the way I think about this. So, there's no wrong answers here. We're just talking about things that we know from the business. And, you know, I invited you because I'm aware, I really only became aware in the last 6 months or so that you guys have part of your offering is consulting for mergers and acquisitions. So I obviously knew of your experience. I know that you were a 20 group moderator prior to Primalend, right? You worked with Lead'em groups and moderating 20 groups. So a lot of experience there operationally for buy here, pay here. And so you and I actually met in the buy here, pay here trenches some years ago. And so he's thinking back to when that was. Yeah, I'll remind you if we need to.
A long time ago.
Yeah,
the further your eyes roll back as you're thinking further back.
Yeah, no, not 2014. Right? Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, I just think knowing your experience, I knew you would be somebody that would have a lot to add to this conversation, because one of the things that we've been out there talking about, last year we recorded a 3-part podcast with Ken Shilson and Mark Burkholder and Brent Carmichael, and we took on this thing about why is there no blue sky in buy here, pay here? Why are these dealers facing a liquidation scenario when they decide to exit the business after years of building up a company? Why aren't they being able to translate any value? So that's kind of what we're thinking about. When I ask you about mergers and acquisitions, we know that the typical Main Street buy here, pay here dealer is not going to become some acquisition target where people are going to show up looking to buy them for some big multiple. But we also know that dealers have the opportunity to install some things in their business to make that business more valuable and conveyable. And sometimes this is not so much that they're going to sell it. They might be it's creating a succession plan, right? For a loved one, family member, but also if something happened unexpectedly, like they're going to want to get the most value out of the business for the sake of their family. So whatever that looks like after they're gone. So these are uncomfortable things sometimes for dealers to think about. Somebody told me recently that, dealers tend to think they're going to live forever. And
Superman.
Some of us do. But the reality is there are some things that we can do in our business to make it more valuable. And it doesn't have to be extra effort. It's things that we're doing already. It's just kind of installing some pieces. So that's really what I wanted to have a chance to talk about today. So I wanted to really find out from your experience in working with mergers and acquisitions, like what do you see when people are out there in a conversation or negotiation for an acquisition? Like what are the things that they're looking at? What are they trying to figure out in terms of deciding the value of an acquisition?
Well, to go back to what you said first, which is you like to think of the morning show as an opportunity for people to just sit around as if we're at the table, drinking a cup of coffee. If that were the case, I think we'd have to take our cup of coffee and move as far away from Russell Moore as possible.
Oh, no. Yeah.
But, I mean, can we just all agree on that? So unfortunately, Russell's already logged in for the day, so there's not much we can do about that. So let's just pretend as if Russell wasn't here.
A virtual jab. Yeah.
There you go. That's for you, Russ. What I would say is when it comes to valuation, there's been this historical reality, right? And many dealers don't really understand what that is. There's not not a lot anyways, I should say, of experts that you can kind of go out, hire and say, listen, here's my buy here, pay here operation. Here's how long we've been in business. Here's my financial statements. Look at my P&L, look at my balance sheet, and then tell me based on, some multiple of earnings or some number, what my company is worth. I think, unfortunately, a lot of dealers get that advice from people who don't understand our industry. And the true realities are, for better or worse, right? And I think the topic of this conversation is how do we improve it as much as we can possibly improve it?
Right.
Let me just start with where most everybody is, and then we can talk about how, what are the things that you can do to increase that over time. The reality is that for most dealers, it's just the true liquidation value of the assets of the company. And I think this is even where a lot of dealers get confused and kind of start off in the negotiation of a sale of their company or an acquisition transition, where they say, well, I did a note sale some time ago, and I sold the top 20% of my portfolio, and I was paid 85 cents of principal for that portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
So if I've got this $10 million receivable company, then it must be worth $8.5 million, right? And that immediately is just not valid. The true value of your company is the liquidation value of all the assets. So if the top 20% of the portfolio that you sold that had maybe a 30 or 60-day recourse came in at 85 cents, well, what's the value of the portion of the bottom 20% of your receivables, all of which is probably past due from one day, $1 to north of 120 days past due, all the skips in your portfolio, the out for repos, the damaged inventory. What's the pennies on the dollar that you would get for that portion of your portfolio? And maybe that's only 20 cents on the dollar. So I think that in our experience, you mentioned that you just became aware that Primalend offered consulting for mergers and acquisitions in the last few months. And Jim, it's never been a business line for us until recently. It's something that within our portfolio and within the customer base of Primalend, this is something we've done for 10 years or more, right? We have a lot of customers that are growth and kind of growth minded, expansion minded. They want to get into a new city or a new demographic or maybe even another state. And we've been able to assist in those transactions. And I came across a study that showed, and this was shocking to me, so maybe it will be to you, maybe it won't be, that the average age of an independent car dealer owner, maybe not the day-to-day operator, but the on-paper owner of the business, the average age is over 70 years old today.
Wow.
Really?
Over 70. Less than 60% of them have any kind of succession planning.
Yeah.
And so what happened is it really said, you know what, we've been doing this for a long time. We have a bit of a playbook of how to evaluate these companies, how to put a deal together. What are some of the strengths and weaknesses of one dealer compared to another? What are some things to avoid? And we said, this is a potential business line for us. And as soon as we, if you will, hung our shingle out there, immediately, I think it's because a lot of people just don't know who or where else to call. We started getting the phone calls. Hey, I've got this piece of real estate. Hey, I've got this portfolio. Hey, I'm looking to get into this space or get into that space. My neighbor down the road is doing X, Y, Z. I want to take advantage. And so it's been it's been great for us, great for our business, and I think we've helped numerous dealers kind of reach their goal, both the buying side and the selling side. Because Jim, one of the biggest issues that a seller has is how do you underwrite the potential buyer?
Oh, right? Yeah.
How do you underwrite the buyer?
But oh yeah.
It's the old, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. We've seen a lot of people make some pretty outlandish offers to our clients for their businesses. And, one of the practices we see is what they like to do is come in and say, hey, we'll pay you X amount, some number well over maybe even what you thought your valuation was. They want to enter you into a exclusive, rights for maybe 6 months or a year or 2 years. And then they want to take that and an LOI, a letter of intent, and then they go shop to try to get the capital to raise the money to come buy your business. Well, as an owner of a company, you've just wasted 6 months or 2 years of your time for somebody who, frankly, is never going to have the ability to close.
That's like estate, right? It's like, people step in there and write a real estate offer contingent upon financing, and we got to know if we want to.
I got to sell my other house before I can buy your house.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, do you want that offer that even though they paid over asking, or do you want the guy who maybe it's 5% below asking, but he's got cash?
Yeah.
Right.
So when I think about our thing, Paxton, on March 30th, I think what I'm hearing you describe as far as the transactions you guys have done so far, they've primarily been asset sales. You're arriving at the value of the assets that are being transferred from one party to another. And the part that I'm really trying to drill down to is, and I realize what we're up against here, but it's like, what could be identified as any kind of intangible value in a transfer. Like the assets are the assets. We all understand. We can value the real estate. We can value the inventory, even the portfolio contracts, even though that's the largest. We can go shop that and get bids in days, right? So I'm really trying to identify, if I have a brand, let's say I've created a company that has some sort of brand, has a written playbook, has, lots of the pieces. Something happens to me unexpectedly. Now Michelle owns it. She has no desire to be in that business. Is there anything that you can think of that I can do to create a value in that business that makes it make sense as a going concern? Somebody acquires it and continues that brand.
Well, what you just said, Jim, is your number one answer. And that is, as a going concern,
right,
there is additional value. Okay. If I'm an owner of a buy here, pay here operation, and I want to maybe move into a new market or expand my operation, if I'm going to open a greenfield new store, right, there's a certain amount of cost and capital I need to raise in order to make that happen. And as a result of that, what I can tell you is two things that we see that happen almost instantaneously. People understand real estate, right? Mm-hmm. They've bought and sold real estate in their business or commercial or otherwise. And so when they start thinking about maybe transitioning out of the business, selling the business, or if something dramatic happens, if there's a tragedy or death in the family, and then a family member or wife is left with the business they don't want, right, the first thing they do, because they understand it, is market and sell the real estate.
Yeah.
And it's the worst thing you can do.
Okay.
Because what you've done is you've spent years or decades developing a business and a relationship with your customers at a particular location. Sure. You've been servicing those customers as a buy here, pay here dealer out of that location. And now you've taken the key component of that and you've lost control of that property for the incoming owner. Right. So if you're looking to sell those assets, if you're looking to keep the business as a going concern,
right,
the most important thing you can do is ensure that you have control of the real estate while negotiating the value of those additional assets, your portfolio, your inventory, your people. All of those things are effectively tied to, do I have control of the real estate or do I not? Are you in a long-term lease that if I buy the equity of your company can be assigned to me? Mm-hmm. If that's the case, we had a deal in Fort Lauderdale a couple of years ago where the city was no longer going to allow additional dealer license on that street, right? Okay. So the dealer who was there was grandfathered in. So to sell the business, to sell the assets, to do all of that, if he couldn't sell the equity of the company and the real estate all together and mm-hmm. maintain that same license number and so forth for the new owner, sure. then the new owner couldn't even have a car dealership at that location. Yeah. So these are all things that you have to know, understand, consider when you start talking about what is the true value of my company. It really begins with ensuring that you retain control of the real estate. If you own it, fantastic. If you've got a lease, do you have a long-term lease that can be transferable to the new owners of the portfolio? Fantastic. Because that is your number one draw, is the cash flow that's coming from the receivables assets that you've built.
Right.
Otherwise, why not just go down the street, pay somebody else rent, and I can start a new operation with my people, my processes, and none of the, I don't know what's in the closet that I have to worry about. Right.
Yeah. I think that's the part too that I look forward to drilling down to, like on this March 30th day, is like, we know that in that scenario you described, imagine I'm that dealer and I have the real estate and I have, maybe it's a long-term lease, whatever, but I have the real estate locked up. I can stay there. I'm no longer in the picture, but I have a business that has got a healthy debt ratio. It's generating positive cash. I've got a playbook. I've got an employee compensation plan that rewards people for longevity, and they maybe have a profit share. And so I got a great team of people who are happy to stay. They don't want to see the business go away. Mm-hmm. So I've got this team in place, and I've got this playbook and this system that's working pretty well, and I've got positive cash. Why would I just liquidate those assets? Like, that's the part that I'm trying to understand, is why would I just liquidate those assets? And so this is the part that I look forward to drilling down to with all the experts like yourself, is let's figure that out. Let's try to help folks figure out what could they create that would make that business have a chance to survive them.
Well, let me surprise you with something. And that is a lot of people, what you just said, like, well, we have X amount of cash flow. We have X amount of profitability. Here's been our, growth rate over X number of years. There's value in the financial statements. If you said to me, if you were going to purchase a business, what are the first few things you're going to request? We kind of talked about that pre-show.
Yeah.
One of those things is, hey, let me see your balance sheet. Let me see your P&L. The realities, however, of your buyer are different. Let me paint a picture. Let's say you've been in a location, you've been there 10 years, and you don't have a senior lender, right? You bootstrapped the business from day one. You borrowed some family money. You've now paid that off. You don't have a line of credit with Primalend or one of our competitors or a bank line. The real estate, you own it. And because you as an owner made the decision that I'm going to pay myself based on the profitability of the company, maybe you paid yourself a W-2 wage of $1 a year or $20,000 a year. Well, when you bring me your P&L and you show me your financial statements, it has very little value to me as an incoming buyer. Right. Because what I'm looking at is I'm saying, well, I'm expansion and growth minded. My company is far more levered than what your company is. I have a senior line of credit with Primalend on not only this location, but 6 other locations. So my cost of capital is significantly higher than what your cost of capital has been over the last number of years. And so the real value in that, Jim, is less about how profitable you've been or how much money you have or haven't made. And it's about what you did touch on is the expense structure of the business, because that's what they truly need to understand. I have 23 employees. Here are their roles and responsibilities. Here are the people that have been with me for X number of years. Here are the key people in key roles that want to keep their positions and want to stay with the company. Those are things that become very valuable. Less value is the actual performance from a financial statement perspective, because nobody's going to pay you any kind of, multiple on earnings or anything else. What is most valuable is the reporting in terms of your systems and how clean is your portfolio. Sure. If I come in to look at your portfolio and I can't decipher what is real and what's not real, if you're not on a real high quality, like an AMS or an IDMS, high level DMS software that I know has audit controls, that somebody in your personnel can't just go in and delete payments and falsify, delinquency and past due dates and things without certain audit controls and time, date, and stamps and stuff. If I'm coming in to look at the portfolio, how good are your collection notes? How much information is there on the consumers? Do you have references? Are these things active and accounted for? Those are the things that are really important. Those are the things that can add additional value over another company, to say, okay, here's my liquidation value of the company. No recourse, very different, because what you don't want to do is sell your company and agree to 30 or 60 day recourse while somebody else is collecting your notes, while somebody else is handling your customer base. That never works. We see it happen all the time. You know what? I'm not getting the price I want. I'm going to have a desk in the building, and I'm going to collect out the remainder of my portfolio, and an XYZ dealer is going to, have all the new business going forward.
Seen some of that too.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that I'm trying to get to, and we won't get to all of it today. Like sure. It's a big subject, and I think it's part of why we felt like we want to kind of flesh it out with the whole panel, right? But I think the part that is curious to me too is, like, if let me just be the buyer. If I were going to buy your business, I'd be asking probably for 4 things right out of the bat. I'd want to know portfolio performance. Give me the last 12 months portfolio performance. I want to see cash flow statement, profit and loss, balance sheet, pretty much in that order. I'm going to look at portfolio performance. So that if I acquire this portfolio, what kind of cash can I expect to yield on it on the next 24 months or so? But then the other piece for me is, let's suppose I'm not in business. I'm buying your business, and I have to make a judgment about, if I buy Paxton's business that has got real estate, it's been in a location, it's got a brand, it's consistently doing 50 sales a month. If I acquire that business, my likelihood of doing 50 sales next month compared to my likelihood of doing 50 sales a month, if I go create my own brand across town, create a whole new store, am I going to do 50 a month? I think so. But what if I don't? So those are the things that for me we start to identify as intangibles. It's like, if I acquire a business that is a going concern, it's established, it has a team, it is producing. I can see the owner's manual, and I can have some certainty that if I bought this business and I stepped in there and the team stayed with me, I could expect similar results. To me, there's some value there.
Oh, there is, and I think if all of that is true, what a buyer is going to do is say, okay, here's the liquidation true kind of value of the company, and then I'm going to say, this is reality. If I were doing this, I would say, if I were to start up an operation across the street, how much equity am I going to have to raise or put into that operation before I am cash flow positive at the level that the business is today?
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
And whatever that period of time and however much equity that is that I have to raise, let's say it's $2 million, right? Well, then I would look at the business that I'm potentially buying and say, well, if I'm going to spend $2 million, I'd probably rather just spend $2 million and just bet on myself and so on. But if I could get all of the same advantages in a going concern business with personnel and cash flow, and only spend 1.5 million, then right there is your enterprise value. I'm willing to pay you $1.5 million over what the true liquidation value of your company is, just to save me the time, the trouble, and the raising of equity issues related to starting a business effectively across the street from jump, right? So
that's kind of, I think, what we were trying to drill down to.
Yeah. And that's real. How that really works, because you wind up getting into an argument of, well, what is the liquidation value, and getting people to see eye to eye on that becomes very challenging. So what Primalend likes to do, working with our customers and merging, a seller and a buyer and getting them to agree, is we say, look, what is the collateral recovery ratio? How much actual cash have you put in your pocket on the receivables you've created over the life of the loan?
Right.
And if I look at your $10 million portfolio today and your CRR is 68 cents, right? That's well above what the true liquidation value is. So we like to kind of start there and say, okay, now what are the pros and cons that can either move that number up or move that number down?
Sure.
Because if I'm a buyer, I want to know, how much cash is this business going to throw off? Well, historically, the collateral recovery rate tells you for every dollar of principal they've created, 68 cents of that they've collected. Okay, that's my starting point. Now, is the portfolio clean? Can I track everything? You mentioned earlier, and this is, again, where I would differ from one thing you said, is that you said one of the first things I'd want is, let me see the last 12 months performance history, right? What we have seen, most people who start to sell a business, they start thinking about this years before they take action.
Okay.
Right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So what do? Historically, they sold 50 cars a month at the location, but 1 year prior to selling, they start selling 80 cars a month at that location, right?
Yeah.
Because they want the portfolio to be as high of a dollar amount as it can possibly be. They're throwing false principal, if you will, on the pile, saying, well, these guys are going to come in and negotiate hard with me. And so I'm just going to start saying yes to everything. And it's not going to be my problem. It's going to be their problem 18 months down the road. Right. So we see a lot of that in the marketplace, that a lot of savvy sellers will really start propping up their portfolio, changing underwriting, extending due dates, and allowing a lot of additional deferrals, things of that nature, because what they want is that principal balance to be as high as possible on the date of sale.
Yeah.
And so again, those are the things that having a partner like us or others that do this is really valuable, because how do you pro forma that out? How do you model that out?
Mm-hmm.
That's not something you're comfortable with or something you have expertise and experience doing. You really want to identify a partner who can look at those things and help you really understand that, whether it's on the sell side or the buy side.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we're beyond 30 minutes.
Yeah.
We try to keep it pretty close to that. We never got around to the actual dealer scenario. Like, maybe we can have you back. We're certainly going to have a chance to have a conversation with you at that event.
Great conversation.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Really,
Paxton. I
really
appreciate
good
that.
stuff.
And I
Thank
know
you.
our dealers
You're very welcome.
And are getting a lot from that. I think it's an interesting thing. Like, it's a really great conversation. I think it's an interesting thing for us to take on. And I think for us, it's a matter of helping dealers understand that, we know that only a small percentage of people who might be listening are really thinking acquisition or selling their business, retiring, whatever. And so we're really more focused on how do we help people just install things in their business that are going to make it more, at least sustainable, allow them to be on a 4-week vacation and have the business still perform well. All those kind of things is like, we're trying to focus on those pieces first.
What were you going to say?
We talked about a lot of stuff. Let me just leave you with one thought, right? Some do's and don'ts.
Okay.
The most important thing is a clean portfolio.
Yeah,
right? Don't play games.
Yeah.
Make sure you've got proper audit controls, keep excellent collection notes, do all of those things, because if there's even a sniff of fraud, most buyers are just uninterested to try to filter through all of that. There's just too many other options, right? And secondly, maintaining control of the real estate and making sure you have a going concern business. Do not shut the business down. Do not terminate employees. Do not let go of all of your techs and then market your business.
Yeah,
your business is far more valuable as a going concern. If you're just a lot sitting there with a portfolio that is difficult to collect, and literally in 2 weeks, you can kill the entire value of your company.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to your list is, in addition to clean portfolio, would be consistent underwriting.
Yeah,
because it'll be clean again next month, right? If
we talked about that, right? Playing fast and loose,
right? Yeah,
leading up to the sale, trying to grow the balance and do all of these games. Anybody who is really capable of closing, will figure that out.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Well, we should wrap up. Yeah, it's great stuff.
Thank you. If you want to just stick around for a minute till after we close off so we can say a proper goodbye and thank you. And really appreciate you taking your time this morning, Paxton.
Very welcome. Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Welcome. All righty.
So we didn't say, I think folks know where to reach Paxton. He's at Primalend Capital Partners. If you can't find him, call us. We know how to find him. So we can get you connected. They're obviously one of the premier, most active lenders in the space, kind of a specialty lender, if you will. And so, get to know them if you don't know them already.
All righty. Again, March 30th, put it on your calendar. Early bird special, early bird morning show. Yeah. 125.
Tune in on Monday and we'll have it on the thing. We'll have it on
125 off. So we'll put it on a ticker and be watching some of the marketing pieces going out starting now. So, all right, everybody. Hey, thank you so much for joining. Happy Friday. Enjoy your weekend.
We'll see you back here Monday, right?
We'll see you all back here on Monday. Thanks. Bye.